watching.
Subscribe. Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan told Wired at an event the other week that the next generation PlayStation would be released in time for holiday 2020. This basically confirms, I think, what everyone thought was going to happen when Sony skipped E3 this year because they don't have anything to talk about. Because the PlayStation, basically, they've been in a holding pattern for about a year and a half, waiting for a few of the last games to come out on the PlayStation 4, i.e. Death Stranding and Last of Us 2, which is coming out in February. Ghost of Tsushima, weirdly, has just dropped off the radar.
Yeah, I was really excited about that.
Like a ninja shadow. It's lying in wait.
Us from behind.
Yeah, and then they're just sort of waiting for next year when you would assume PlayStation 5 is coming out. Probably the next Xbox is coming out as well.
Yeah, what's it called? Project Scarlet?
I think that's the code name at the moment, yeah.
But it'll be the Xbox...
2?
Xbox box?
Xbox box,
Xbox squared?
The Xbox, but not a box. The Xbox intangible.
Yeah.
And so he said holidays 2020. He then also confirmed that the console would in fact be called the PlayStation 5. Kel Supreme!
He made such a big deal of it. We call the PlayStation 5. We can finally reveal the fifth PlayStation will be called the PlayStation.
Like
5.
it was a blooming secret as well. Like it's yeah, we can confirm, and everyone's going like, yeah, what did you think? You've called it PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is like he even said in the interview it was like a giant burden had been lifted from my shoulders. Like he was telling a story about how he likes to dress up as a woman on a weekend, like he's a lumberjack. It's not like this is not some dirty secret. It's not like weighing on you.
The interview was like, "What, the title of the gossip?" He went, "No, I'm not sleeping with my wife anymore." What?
I have a mistress. She works here. I love the drama.
He's been sleeping with a PS Vita for 3 years.
That's the problem. Is he's still playing a PSP?
Although they could have called gone a different. They could have called it like a PSV though. Couldn't they, or something?
He owns a Nintendo Switch. That is, I think that's
cross contamination.
That's his dirty little secret. So the PlayStation 5 is a console that they've spent 4 years now building. And a number of studios are already working with it, though it's not really been confirmed.
Dev kits have been around for a while.
Yeah, it's not really been confirmed who's sort of doing things, but you've got to assume people like Guerrilla Games are probably working on stuff. Blue Point Games, who did all the remasters of Shadow of the Colossus and stuff, and a lot of the PlayStation remasters definitely have one, because they're talking about what they're making next. They've not said what it is, but they said they're working on something pretty big. You've got to assume it's a remake of some massive PlayStation 3 game or PlayStation 2 game maybe, after the success of Shadow of the Colossus being completely redone from the ground up. It's also that sort of the fact that studios have it was proven by the fact that those dev kit designs leaked. And then a load of developers came out of the woodwork and were like, "Oh yeah, that's the dev kit." That's it. Like, when has that ever happened in history? Like, loads of developers on Twitter went, "Yeah, can confirm that's the dev kit." NDAs mean nothing to these people.
They don't mean it, which is weird because whenever I went to press events for game stuff, the NDAs were insane.
But they give you you're not allowed in the building unless you've got an NDA in case you tell somebody what the lobby smells like. It's not like you're not allowed to just give out trade secrets.
Well, it was funny.
I filmed at quite a few different game studios, and you're not allowed to film dev kits because you're not allowed to show people what they look like.
Yeah,
and that is a really big part of going into these places and filming and being under NDA. There was a lot of times we were at studios and they would be like, "Don't look over there." That was a very common one. If you could not turn your head left.
Yeah,
we had that at Rocksteady for a while, where we kept going to Rocksteady, and they were just like, can you just not look at any of this? You had to just walk head down through the office into a back room, and they just left you in there until. Then they were like, they just wheel in Paul Dini for a bit and be like, "Here's Paul Dini."
Do you get like hood and cable tie around?
Yeah, that's it.
I remember filming at a studio. I don't think I can.
Funtanimo.
Yeah. I don't think I can say the studio, but I filmed at a studio that was making a Star Wars game that was very secret. And we were just walking down this corridor, and there was just really obviously one big room just full of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And the person just went, "Oh yeah, by the way, it's in your NDA. You can't look at any of that.
You can't look in the Star Wars room."
We were like, "Was that Star Wars?"
Despite the fact the doors go, "Shh."
Yeah. But we all then went, "Was it Star Wars?" And they went, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
But you can't say that.
Yeah.
Like, oh God.
It's a perfect set of Tatooine. It's.
All right, so there was lots of details in this Wired article, more than I thought we'd get.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff about SSDs.
Yeah, they are massively. So they this is because the person doing all the front manning for it is Mark Cerny, who is the system architect.
Governor of the Bank of England.
He's the system architect of the PlayStation 4, and he was very front and center in terms of talking about the PlayStation 4 and all the specs inside. He also made Knack. That terrible,
that's a shame.
That terrible PlayStation launch
Knack
game.
is honestly one of the worst games I've ever played in my entire
But the
life.
voxels, Simon! The individual voxels crumble!
It was rubbish.
It was rubbish. It was a tech demo that got out of hand, is what it was.
You it was.
You were made of nuts and bolts, and then you just sort
yeah.
of like gathered more as you went through the game. It was the same as like Resogun was another game that was made of individual voxels.
Oh, yeah.
So everything,
That was
every
good.
single particle of everything was made of individual bricks, which was showing off kind of the processing power of the PlayStation.
Knack was basically, do you like Lego but think it's too fun and charming? Why don't you try this?
It was the Swedish knockoff of, or is Lego Swedish already?
Swedish knockoff? It's Danish.
Yeah, there you go. It's the Swedish knockoff of Lego.
Just a really aggressive.
It's Danish.
Danish,
You So, some of the features that Mark has been talking about, he said that it's got an updated CPU, a GPU, double duh, but the GPU supports ray tracing, which has nothing to do with nothing to do with Mysterio plagiarizing other people's work. It's to do with the way that light bounces through complex 3D environments, and the idea is that using ray tracing, you can create more realistic environments because the light moving through it reacts to character presence.
Yeah,
much
I
better.
saw a demonstration of it. That was basically, it would be as if between this microphone and the camera there was a see-through screen, and that is your screen, and the light source is actually the actual light particles that it's individually calculating and bouncing off stuff. So they showed this demo of like these sort of spheres and how the light can move around it through dust and through 3D particles completely independently of every other light source. It was really interesting.
It sounds like
doesn't
complete
sound
mumbo
interesting.
jumbo to me.
But it
And
was
they're going
interesting.
to use that top tier technology to make Knack 2.
Hey, there's gonna be so many games with flashlights in. Like now they'll be like, ooh, look, you can see yourself in a mirror. I think the other thing about ray tracing though is that it also can be used for very different applications. You can also use it to sort of chart the way that audio moves through the same sort of environment. So there's things like you can work out how what your character can hear in a much more advanced way. So if you're playing a stealth game and you're listening for footsteps or whatever it is, you can work that out because of the way you can make the audio now bounce around the environment. So you can kind of do that thing where like you hear something but you're not sure where it's coming from because of the sort of it's not so much more like when they went to stereo, they had to be like it has to go left or right if it's coming from the left or right, and now you can have it coming from the right, but it originated the left because it went bing 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 all the way through the environment, which I think is quite a cool idea.
Yeah.
Witchcraft, basicly.
Yeah.
We should burn Mark Cerny.
Yeah. Someone somewhere is both excited by that and is interested in that.
And also they've said that they've got another thing called 3D audio in the game, which means that
This has been a thing for a while.
so this has been a thing for a while, but it wasn't in the PlayStation 4 architecture. But this is the idea that you can hear sounds coming from above, below, left and right, without any need for other hardware. This is like an in-software version or like an in-system version of surround sound, basically.
Yeah. I know someone who used this on, I can't remember what it was. It was some sort of audio project years ago. And because it was like repurposing older audio but into this kind of 3D audio thing, it was quite extreme in what it did. And it just made people sick. They were just like, whoa. That made their whole inner ear go all weird.
I think the big bit of news is the talk of the SSD. Oh yeah, oh I love an SSD. But the idea of the idea of an SSD in replacing the hard drive that's currently inside the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, I think both consoles coming up are going to have SSDs in, is that you get much faster load times. But those load times don't just mean that your game, like if you're transitioning between different parts of the game, it loads quicker. So if a load screen actually only went down from, I think in Spider-Man they did a test and it was like 15 seconds to load on a PlayStation 4, transitioning from one area of New York to another. On this system, when they were running it off a dev kit, which apparently was behind like, a curtain so you couldn't see it, like it was The Witness in like a documentary or something.
Just somebody else in a black suit and wires just making it all move.
It was all greyed out. It was 0.8 seconds to transition from a scene.
Well, they also said you could install, didn't they, like different bits of the game first. So if you only want to play single player, you can just choose to have the single player in there, and then they'll basically all the developers will have to put aside in the UI what stuff you can just jump straight into.
Yes.
So it'll speed up all the sort of launching stuff. Now I'm
not. Also when the console is now going to 100%. I think PlayStation 4 soft requires you, or sorry, non-explicitly. Hello. Just like I'm a witch in Wizard of Oz.
Just testing if you floated.
Because like the PlayStation 4, I think they never really made a big deal about it leading into it, how much space games would take up.
It's ridiculous how much space. I can only have like 4 games on my PlayStation.
The constant fridge shuffle of PlayStation games, of like uninstalling and reinstalling games, is actually quite taxing. And I think at least going into PlayStation 5, this is a very good solution to the fact that like quite often you're downloading games to play one mode or to dip back into the story a little bit. But having the ability to go, well, I don't need 40 gigabytes of this data, so I'm not going to have to delete the whole game over and over again because I wanted to play something else this weekend. And then I had to think about doing that earlier in the week, so I started doing it on Wednesday so it was ready in time to play on the weekend. That's great. I think that's really cool.
Now, the thing that will change this will be the size of it.
Yeah.
Because the good thing about now is that you can, because it still uses normal hard drives, you can quite, not cheaply, but quite cost effectively get expansion drives for PlayStations that do work, and they're not going to. I do think they're too expensive, but they're not bankruptingly expensive.
No, and they do slightly, and you can get SSDs, external SSDs to plug into PlayStation that do slightly improve the load time.
Yes, but current SSDs are expensive, proper ones. So I don't know whether you'll still be able to use an older hard drive. As an expansion drive, if this thing's still going to only be 500 gig, I think will they push that to a terabyte? I don't know. But if it's only going to be 500 gig again, we're still going to have.
It's got to be bigger.
We're still going to have space issues because he's just talking about a more effective use of the space. And they haven't confirmed how much space. So I think we're going to still be in a 500 gig, and then there'll be an upgrade. You can get a bigger SSD. But I do worry about we might be in the same problem again, although it might just be quick enough that they're saying this will be so quick now that the uninstalling or bit part installing and reinstalling of games actually will just cease to be a problem because this is so much more efficient. Yeah. So I don't know I feel like they're going down that route as opposed to actually giving you a lot more space to begin with.
I hope developers use it to subtly patch their games in like a... You know, you don't have to fix a section. You can just go, we've put in a patch where you can just delete that section that you don't like. Like if you're playing Devil May Cry 5, you could just delete all the bits with V. That'd be great. Like, just I don't like that character. Off he goes.
That's true.
You stupid bird-talking idiot.
Well, right now, when you get a patch in a game, it uninstalls and reinstalls the whole game, essentially.
Yeah.
That's essentially. That's why it takes so long. But also, you forget, hard drives, as they currently say, they're basically like little record players. They're still like a physical thing spinning around and whirling around there. So they get really hot. I mean, mine sounds like a jet engine now because it's just constantly whirring away.
I think that's because you've never blown the dust out of your PlayStation.
I've blown it off loads of time.
Blown my PlayStation up. That's a Channel 5 documentary waiting to happen. Man blows PlayStation.
Like that guy gets off with his car.
Yeah, exactly. I just need some quiet time alone with the Taurus.
Yeah. I like how that show where that guy told his dad that he was getting off with his car.
Yeah.
Like how it was amazing how like they were so accepting of it, but he was just like, I don't know what to do with that information.
Days, yeah. Problem is, what am I going to do? Drive him somewhere?
Yeah. Where'd you go to not get off with cars?
I think the other interesting thing about the SSD though is that because it not only can it load things faster, it can render things faster, and I think this is a bit of technology that I don't. Until we see it, I kind of almost don't believe that it could exist. But the idea that, like, say a game like Spider-Man, and this is a demo they did, in Spider-Man, the reason you move at the speed you move through New York and you never get, even though you get abilities to make the sort of, like the whizzing around a little bit quicker, you never actually pick up too much pace more. You never get like really fast. And that's because the game can't render New York quick enough. They did a test with Spider-Man where they showed the PS4 version where the fixed camera behind Spider-Man flies along behind him and New York renders out as he goes. And it works perfectly in Spider-Man. It's a great game. With the PS5 version that they did, they unhooked the camera and then flew it through New York at the speed of a jet. And then just paused it every so often to be like, and New York is rendered. And New York is rendered.
That's interesting.
So it means that you could basically get like a Flash video game. Like, you know, you could do things, or Billy Whiz if you wanted to make a Beano video game, I guess.
Well, you did say, didn't it? Because of the way they can load stuff now, it will change the way games are designed and go back to how they used to be designed, which is you just built the whole game and it just existed. Talking of whizzing around, should we talk about the controller? Because that was interesting as well.
Yeah, so the controller apparently looks a lot like a DualShock 4. Wired said that there was a little weird chunk / hole in the middle of it, seemingly like a bit of technology had been lifted out so that journos weren't like, it's got this thing in. And Sony recently filed a patent for a voice-driven AI companion thing. So chances are we'll be talking to the PlayStation.
But this will now be the third generation in a row that's had something like that.
Yeah.
And
we've done a little touch doohickey.
Yeah, but it's voice stuff is always rubbish. It's rubbish. It doesn't work. It never. I don't want to sit shouting at my PlayStation. Like, do you remember when
have you ever
Rise
asked Siri
came out?
have you ever asked Siri or Alexa to say 100 100 100 100
Yes.
100 100 in Welsh? Because that's fun.
Yes, that is fun. But I remember when Rise Son of Rome came out and I had to review that. And like I was just screaming at this Xbox to volley or whatever it wanted to do, and it just doesn't work. The only time I think it's ever...
almost as if you'd employed peasants as soldiers.
I know. They didn't want to do it. They but then the only thing I can think of is that in FIFA, if you're playing the manager mode, if you swear, sometimes it will send you a letter from the board saying that you've sworn. Yeah.
What else do you say in FIFA voice controls? Like 1 2 1 2 1 2 man on man on man on.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only things you can say in football.
Yeah, you just join in with a chance.
Yeah, that's it.
Many of them not okay.
And then you get a letter from the manager.
Yeah. So I find any voice control stuff totally unexciting and uninteresting. I think it still doesn't work. Like, voice control in cars has existed now for nearly 20 years, and it still doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, as far as I'm aware, my dad has had a yelling fit at cars for 20 years because it's never worked. So why? Oh, that's not good. So why? Oh my God! Sorry, this is me. Ah! It's fine.
It's all right. They can't see that.
So don't forget, guys, all voice-related stuff is awful. But don't forget, this is also in podcast form, so make sure to go check that out. ScreenStalker.
Yeah, but we're not
podcasts
controlled by what they say, Chopper. That's the
any good
unless you super
podcast
chat,
player.
in which case we are.
But here's it. So the controller has, really interestingly, has haptic feedback in it. Haptic feedback is very cool and does work. It's very interesting. But also the ability to have that haptic feedback in the triggers.
Yeah, so they're adaptive triggers.
Yeah.
So it's things like if you're using a bow and arrow in a game, the resistance level of pulling the trigger changes to mimic like using a bow and arrow. So you go from I'm just a gamer playing my game to I'm a video game character from 2013 in which everyone had a bow and arrow.
The really interesting thing about this is I don't know if you've ever shot a gun. Have you ever shot a gun?
Yeah.
Right. So when you actually shoot a gun,
sorry.
it's obviously the trigger is obviously like. What did you say?
I don't think you said it. Yeah, I shot a gun. I killed a man.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So as you start to pull the trigger, it's
a weird stag do.
Yeah. So you're just doing clay pigeon. You kill the guy. It's the whole stag do just all dressed up as dinosaurs. Just
they do move in herds.
One person dressed as boobs.
But like, so there'd be tension, and then it would obviously release, and there'd be like then it would like release back. So I wonder whether actually pulling the trigger on your PlayStation now actually it will feel like you're pulling an actual trigger. It won't just be that it'll be more tense for a bow or whatever. It'll actually have that release moment.
Yeah, so they said in combination.
Makes me sound like a psychopath, but I do think it's.
Then
you can really look in their
I
eyes.
just want the sweet relief of tension as I see the light extinguish from their eyes. But yeah, so in combination with the haptic feedback, which is sort of like an advanced version of Rumble, I guess, you can kind of create. It seems like Sony Japan studio have created all these little tech demos that show off all this stuff, and people and the Wired guys were saying that this is really interesting. There was a VR demo in which you run across. You basically, it's a platformer, but you go across different surfaces, like you go across sand and glass and what was the other one? Wooden boards. And so when you're going across the glass or ice, it's kind of slippery, and the almost the sticks like loosen up slightly, so it gives you that feeling of being slightly out of control. Sand, everything tightens up, and it's slow, and it's like sludgy and kind of laborious. And the wooden boards, everything sort of springs, so it's got that kind of pushback of your presence in the game, obviously
Really
being generated through your hands and not.
Yeah, it's really smart though, and the haptic feedback really does work, because I mean it's in iPhones already, even through a touchscreen, it still works as a thing. So I think the interesting, they did say it would make it heavier, but then I like this little dig where they said it would still be lighter than an Xbox controller with batteries.
But does it make you heavier because it's not actually built into the controller? It just comes with another man who then rubs different materials across you. So you're walking on sand. He's just got sandpaper.
You just got one of those old radio Foley artists behind you. So as you go through gravel, he's just there in a little tray.
I want that console.
As if when it's raining, you just got a watering can over your head.
The PlayStation Zero. It's done by Crank.
There's a horse nearby.
It's just got 2 coconuts.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you are excited for the PlayStation 5 or if you're more excited for the Xbox side of things. Let's start a war in the comments. That's what I want to do.
Thank you for watching. That is all we have time for. Please click the video that has appeared on screen now to watch more awesome ScreenStalker content, or check out our playlist where you can see all of our Let's Plays, features and other fun stuff. Also, subscribe to the channel, because when we reach 50,000 subscribers, we're going to start a WWE 2K Universe mode with all of us in. That should be awesome. Oh yeah, and remember, we're watching.